Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Tuesday, April 29th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, Matt Robinson in the house on this Tuesday, ready to break down another night of NHL Stanley Cup playoff action. We got 4 games on tap tonight. Looking forward to it. Just like we're looking forward to Thursday and our next Stanley Cup playoffs live betcast, which is exclusive to our great Patreon subscribers and members. So it's a reminder to make sure you get on board Thursday, May the 1st. Okay, this week. And we've got 3 Game 6s, all elimination games in the Western Conference already lined up for Thursday night. Vegas at Minnesota, Dallas at Colorado, and LA at Edmonton, all taking place on Thursday night. So that is going to be some kind of betcast. One team has a chance to move on, and the other might go home in those 3 matchups coming up Thursday night. It's going to be an exciting night, a great night to have a betcast. So make sure you're with us on Thursday, May 1st. And the only way for that to happen is to become a Patreon member. If you aren't already, make sure you sign up $10 per month, patreon.com/iceguys, and be there for what could be a amazing betcast Thursday night with 3 Game 6s on tap. We're going to get to recap last night first. But before we do that, we got to go back even further because it's not really so much Alex and Perlo, but I got wound up with the Kings and their debacle the other night in Game 4, that we totally forgot a couple of things. I know Alex wants to mention something else about Tom Wilson and that situation from the other night, but we didn't mention at all on yesterday's show that Mike Sullivan and the Pittsburgh Penguins have parted ways. Obviously, that was announced yesterday. Not surprising. This gives Kyle Dubas a chance to get his own head coach in there. And I think we figured that it was time for just a change, a fresh voice. It had been really a great run for Mike Sullivan, a decade as head coach, basically, with the Pittsburgh Penguins, 2 Stanley Cup championships, obviously tied to Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, and the core of that Pittsburgh Penguins team forever after the run that Sullivan had. I think he's still a viable, solid head coach. There are a couple of things that he did the last couple of years that, I didn't love, but at the same point in time, I probably blame the management more than him as to the direction of this Pittsburgh team. I don't think the roster construction was any good at all, and that certainly hindered his ability to coach this team in a winning in an environment and winning situation. So at the end of the day, it gives Pittsburgh a chance now as they start to rebuild, retool, to look in another direction and have a new voice behind the bench as head coach. And for Mike Sullivan, who's still a very good head coach, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, my gosh, there are going to be suitors lined up. And from what I'm reading, they're already lined up to try to at least interview Mike Sullivan and make him their next head coach. The New York Rangers have been linked to the Mike Sullivan right from the beginning because Chris Drury, before he hired Gerard Gallant years ago, he was waiting on the availability of Mike Sullivan a few years ago for the Ranger job. So there's no doubt Mike Sullivan's at the top of the New York Rangers list for potential head coaches for them. And according to Jimmy Murphy and a few other people, the Boston Bruins want another chance to have Mike Sullivan in the organization. Remember, Mike Sullivan was with the Boston organization like 2 decades ago. It was a very long time ago, and he's grown exponentially as a head coach and his abilities as a coach since then. And Boston has apparently put Mike Sullivan right at or near the top of the list. So we got New York versus Boston all over again, maybe, vying for the services of Mike Sullivan. And that's not to mention maybe some other teams that I'm sure are going to have some interest and at least kick the tires on bringing in Mike Sullivan of the other teams that have head coaching vacancies right now. So very interesting to see how that shakes out, I should say, Alex. But Mike Sullivan and the Pittsburgh Penguins no more, but he will be unemployed for not very long.
No, absolutely. I mean, he did a tremendous amount of work in Pittsburgh, but you could just see the writing was on the wall over the last couple of years with just how things have fallen off. And this retool that the Penguins have done just hasn't looked as that great, to be honest. I don't know what direction they go in now, because they're kind of in this weird position of, they still have all these top guys. You have the Crosby and Malkin and Letang and Carlson and all these contracts for quite some time still. You know, are you selling all these pieces off and you're going with a younger coach and kickstarting the rebuild now? Or are you trying to get somebody who could maybe navigate both waters where you could still be competitive, say, next year, but then he's a guy you can hold on to once you do start the rebuild 2-3 years from now? So those are the questions that the Penguins have to ask themselves. And for Sullivan, like you said, you've got a number of options. He could go to New York. He could go to Boston. He could come to the west side of Chicago. He could go. There's Seattle. There's a lot of places where we could see him maybe float around to. I'm sure all would be interested, no doubt, because he's right now the best head coach that's available that hasn't already been tied to a team, say Quinville to Anaheim, or has dropped their name out of a race, Carl in Chicago, for example. So, yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens moving forward.
You said, Alex, you wanted to say something too about the Tom Wilson situation.
Yeah,
We didn't get to it yesterday.
Yeah, but I'll get to it when we do the full recap from yesterday, because it ties in with something that happened, or we could just lead in with it now. It kind of ties into what happened in the Tampa Florida game as well with Ekblad.
Right.
So we can just talk about it a little bit later.
We'll save it for then. Matt, your thoughts, Matt, on Mike Sullivan and where he might be, and just how viable Heath is, and how someone will probably be very lucky to have him as their next head coach.
Absolutely. Yeah, not a whole lot to add. Obviously, I noticed when that news broke, then, he's the longest tenured coach, and I think Coop is now number 1 or something of that sort, and then Bednar jumped to 2.
Yeah.
So obviously a guy that can stay somewhere for a long period of time and have success. Obviously, towards the end, Pittsburgh had their issues, but I don't think you pin that on him. They were getting old. They were missing pieces. They were paying guys that weren't playing. All that fun stuff. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands, because as Alex mentioned, I think he's definitely the blue chip coach available, has been in the league. Quinville, obviously a very proven coach, but he's been out of the league for a little bit. He's a guy that, can jump into a new team and kind of hit that reset button. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands. I'm sure it'll be more up to him as opposed to a team, him having to interview super hard for a team. I think, any team would be lucky to have him, especially a team that needs a new coach. So nothing but good things to say about Sullivan.
Yep, no doubt. And like I say, I just find it hysterical. It's going to be New York versus Boston again in a different kind of battle, not on the field or on the court or on the ice this time. No, but battling for maybe the services of this head coach here, Mike Sullivan. So New York versus Boston could be happening here all over again. Last night we had 2 games. We had Tampa Bay and Florida. And this was a crazy game. I mean, it was pretty dull in the first period. It was very, very well played defensively on both sides, very tight, not a lot of room to operate, not a lot of time and space available. It was a scoreless opening period. And then sure enough, as soon as that happened, we ran to bet over 1.5 in the second period. It just continues to be spectacular, that trend. Scoreless first periods going over in the second period. It's now 5-0 in the playoffs, by the way, for scoreless first periods going over in the second period. And it opened up, but it opened up in a surprising way. Obviously, we saw a brilliant feed by Brad Marchand. Great win in the corner of the puck. Won a puck battle, did all the dirty work, found Anton Lundell for the 1-0 goal in that game. And then the incident that everyone's probably still talking about, where Aaron Ekblad just drives his forearm right into the kabong, right into the head of Brandon Hagel. And somehow this was not called a penalty. And somehow 2 referees on the ice missed this. What are you looking at exactly? You're there to do your job. You're there to look at what is happening in the play on the ice. The puck was right there. What are the 2 referees possibly looking at in that situation? Were you staring up at the sky? You daydreaming about your summer vacation or your next golf game? You playing tiddlywinks? What's the scoop? How the hell has 2 referees that are paid to do their job and oversee what's going on the ice, nobody picks up that Aaron Ekblad rams his forehead right into Brandon Hagel? How is that missed? I'm shocked by that. I'm actually not, because it happens a lot. but I continuously am surprised at how these blatant infractions, get missed on the ice. It's just hysterical. What causes that? How did two referees not see it at the same time when the puck's right there? The play is going on right there where that hit happened, and yet nobody saw it. It goes on without a penalty. John Cooper is rightfully pissed off on the bench, and then it's like it galvanized Tampa for a minute, because not long after that hit, Hagel leaves the game. There's no penalty. Bang, bang, 2 goals in a row in 11 seconds for Tampa Bay to turn the 1-0 deficit into a 2-1 lead. And the reaction that went viral of Cooper to the go-ahead goal, the one that was 11 seconds after the tying goal, is just epic. He goes, yeah, fuck right off. That's how the fuck you do it. Yeah. I mean, that's almost like a fuck you refs, fuck you Florida, fuck you Ekblad for knocking one of our best players out there. That was all that emotion and anger and vitriol and rage coming out in John Cooper in one moment with those back-to-back goals. It was just what a moment that was. And of course, the camera caught it. It's been played over and over again the last, 12 hours since the game ended. But Tampa looked like they were in good shape. They had wrestled momentum away, a 2-1 lead in that game, but Florida's never out of a game. And of course, we saw what happened in the third period. Tampa, it's almost like eerie, spooky. It's like Halloween in April, that Tampa scores goals 11 seconds apart. Florida, in the third period, to tie it 2-2 and then go up 3-2, score those 2 goals 11 seconds apart. The exact same time between goals. Just spooky that happened. But what an answer by the Florida Panthers. What we're going to have to start thinking about doing in some of these live betting situations? If some guy knocks someone out of the game, it's a suspect moment, or he's a villain. It becomes a villain. Knocked out Hagel. The Lightning are pissed off, and the guy stays in the game. We're going to have to start betting a live goal scorer prop for this guy. It's happened twice. Remember Wilson on Carrier, and Wilson scores the empty netter against Montreal when everyone was livid about the hit that he laid on Alexander Carrier. Same damn shit last night. Ekblad knocks out Hagel, should have been penalized. And, of course, Aaron Ekblad scores the tying goal in the third period, 2-2. So the guy that shouldn't have even been playing in the game at the time, probably, based on that hit, ends up tying the game. Seth Jones gets the go-ahead goal, a crazy carom in front, and then Carter Verhaeghe puts it away into the empty net. And Tampa is less than 4 minutes away from tying up the series. And then in the blink of an eye, it goes from 2-1 to 4-2 Florida, game over, maybe series over, as now the Florida Panthers take a 3-1 series lead with them. And by the way, Aaron Ekblad having a phone hearing today with Department of Player Safety, so may get something. We'll have to wait and see, but I don't think it's going to be big because it's not in person, it's phone, although it is the playoffs. I'm sure that plays a part in why it's a phone hearing. You got to keep things moving along. So it would be wild to see him get suspended or something, even though there was no penalty, which shows how just a horrific mistake that was by the refs in that game. So we'll wait and see what the decision is on Aaron Ekblad's status. But we do know Brandon Hagel's status, guys, for Game 5, and he's already been ruled out. He will not play for the Tampa Bay Lightning in what is now a must-win, backs against the wall, facing elimination. Game 5, back home at Amalie Arena tomorrow night for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Alex, we'll start there with this game. Your thoughts on last night?
Yeah, I mean, this is just become now the series that we were waiting for. It's funny, like I said, how brutal the first 2 games were in the series, but to now finally see this intensity and the back and forth pace, it was just a lot of fun. I said, this is one of those games where, okay, even if you don't have a fight in the dog as far as a bet's concerned or it's a team you're rooting for, it's just good fucking hockey, good playoff hockey. And now, like I said, the event in question with Aaron Ekblad, I've watched this clip 100 times, and it's funny, like I said, I didn't get to talk about Tom Wilson the other day, but I watched that clip about 100 times too. And those 2 hits look very, very similar. And if you look at the angles that are shown, especially the angle with Ekblad on Hagel, that front kind of curved angle that they showed basically on the replay most of the times on ESPN, it's pretty much a forearm right to the shoulder that's pushing him down. You see with Tom Wilson, that hit, he's leading with the forearm. So now this is something that is really kind of out of the loophole. It's not a full-on elbow. and it's a target directed toward the head but hitting the shoulder, you're still getting the same kind of impact as if a guy was hitting you full on in the shoulder. There's no way you can just move your neck out of the way and move the rest of keep your upper body out of harm's way. So it's one of those things where it's coincidental. Penalties should have been called in both plays, is my point. But to say that you're headhunting or targeting, especially when you're talking about the momentum and force of impact and trajectory, you can't say that were hits that were just completely malicious. He didn't leave his feet on this play, but the fact that he's sticking the arm out, this now has to be something that's reviewed because these guys are wearing much larger pads than 30, 40 years ago. When it was the days of Gordie
Equipment is
Howe, he's
massive.
driving.
It's huge. Yeah.
And when it was
robot.
Gordie Howe, he was driving his full actual elbow into someone's chest. It wasn't the forearm. The guys are getting clever and creative with ways on how they're hitting people. It's the same thing we talked about in fighting, where you're seeing these guys with takedowns and trips. The same thing is happening along the boards. So you're seeing different hits and different angles that guys are planning to take hits at different angles and using different parts of their body. So now the rules just have to kind of match up and comply. It's not elbowing. It's certainly roughing, but you have to find that line and that barrier. And just here we are back to back nights having a hit that looked almost identical to one another, but yet you had one where it was called. You have one where it's not a call in the game, but now it's a hearing for the Department of Player Safety. There has to be some balance that's created, and that's something that the referees, the GMs, and the rules committee are going to have to work at. Because as far as I'm concerned, those are just hard hits. And you're really kind of just circumventing the rules. You're finding a loophole there. I'm not hitting him in the head. I'm leading toward the shoulder. I'm not using my elbow. I'm using my forearm. But with enough pressure and force, you could still seriously hurt somebody just the same way you could if it was just a clean on shoulder right to the head or to the jaw. So that's the thing. It's just there are loopholes to it, and these players are finding it, and we have to adjust accordingly. We can't lose our cool over it. And I get where the fans are obviously, like I said, if you're Tampa Bay in that spot or that hit, you could have easily folded up. They didn't. They came back, scored twice in 11 seconds. If you're playing the game, you deal with all the other shit afterward. But when you're playing the game, and you know, it's great on Tampa Bay, great on Minnesota the other day with that call with Hurdle on the front of that. They come back and answer back the goals. You're not going to be able to win a war with the referees bitching about it for 40 minutes. You got to get back on the ice, play the fucking game, and score the goals. That's how you get back at that in the moment. So great on Tampa Bay for being able to do that. And then Florida coming right back to answer as well. It just shows how this series definitely has life now.
Yeah.
And you know, we're going to continue to see more of this rough play. We're going to continue to see hits that look questionably dangerous. And then when you slow it down and watch from different frames and different angles, they actually end up being somewhat cleaner hits within the current rules we have.
Yeah, I mean it's like I said, and I applaud Cooper for saying I'm almost sick of answering questions about all of this stuff, and it's true. It's just there's gray areas. There's people that think, yeah, if this was 1985, there should be nothing wrong with that, and then there's the people that are, it's 2025. You can't even allow what looks like a pretty hard, vicious but clean hit like that, and we're just going back and forth with what's legal and what's not, what's acceptable and what's not, and it's tiresome, you know, to have to answer the same fucking questions every day about all of these hits. Matt, your thoughts on Florida getting a big win in Game 4 in the Battle of Florida?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty good game. Exciting to watch for sure with kind of the back and forth. Obviously, the hit. Don't have too much to add. You know, you guys broke it down pretty well, especially regarding the hits. But yeah, I mean, crazy. You know, I watched the game. Florida scores first. I'm like, oh, great. You know, they're going to roll them. And then boom, Tampa scores two quick ones. They're back on top. You know, things are looking good. And then down the stretch, they gave up those three in the third. So definitely a bummer if you're a Tampa Bay fan. I think the redeeming factor is that Game 5 is in Tampa. You know, you're going home. Maybe you get that win at home and then get some momentum going into Game 6. I don't think the series is over, but I think it's getting pretty close. You know, it's going to be tough to beat the Florida Panthers in 3 straight games. You know, we'll see if there's a suspension, because I do think that's a factor. You know, I don't know that there will be, but if there is, that's obviously going to be a factor for Florida. But yeah, it's gonna be tough. I, as a fan and no dog in with either team, I would love to see that series go 7. But I don't know that it's going to. But just as a fan, I hope Tampa can rally off 2 wins and then we get a game 7. And then who knows what happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'll wait to see if any disciplines handed out on Aaron Ekblad regarding last night. But regardless, at the end of the day, you don't have Brandon Hagel, but you can't mope and you can't pout and you can't just, you've got to just dig down and find a way to win a hockey game tomorrow night, because it is now facing elimination for the Tampa Bay Lightning tomorrow night against Florida. And then the second game last night, tell you what, they have shown in these playoffs that they've got a lot of heart, a lot of guts, a lot of gumption, a lot of ability to just, turn the page and find ways. When you look at game 2, being down in that game and just the turn of it. Think about game 2 when it looked like this series was on the precipice of going all toward Colorado. They won game 1. Game 2, the game was tied in the second, but Dallas had this extended 2-man advantage and they wasted it. They didn't do anything with it. Logan O'Connor scored to make it 3-2 late second period. And we're thinking, wow, this is but one period away from being 2-0 Avs. And Dallas got off the mat. They tied it. They won in overtime. Game 3, everyone excited about Gabe Landeskog's return. Dallas thwarted that. They played a real solid road game, and they ended up taking a 2-1 series lead. Game 4, Colorado punched back hard. They dominated, and Dallas, wobbly again, and people questioning Dallas again after that, because it was worse than 4-0 if you watch that game, as far as just the level, the dominance, the puck possession time, the shots on goal, scoring chances, all of that. I mean, it was all Colorado, and it could have been worse if not for Jake Ottinger, especially in the first 2 periods, was terrific, even though they lost that game in Colorado in game 4. And people starting to, as Colorado found their mojo back, they're maybe about to take control of this series again as it shifts to Dallas for game 5. And here's those Stars once again responding and getting off the mat after a bad game 4. It jumped out to a quick first period lead, 9 seconds in. I mean, that was big. I don't think anyone anticipated them scoring 9 seconds into the game, but that was big to get it early, and especially Wyatt Johnston, who, let's be real, he hasn't had the series that we saw from him in the playoffs last year for Dallas so far. But for him to get a goal early like that, big confidence boost. Thomas Harley, little puck luck for sure. Puck bounces in the air, hits Mackenzie Blackwood, and bounces in the net for the 2-0 lead. But you need a little puck luck at this time of year. Beautiful give and go 2-on-1 hints to Mikko Rantanen, who gets his first goal of the series. So you got Wyatt Johnston, quiet series, Mikko Rantanen, quiet series, at least from a goal scoring standpoint. They both get goals. They both get some confidence. Huge for Dallas moving forward. And what I like about Dallas, too, is Colorado responded. They got it to 3-2. And, Building got a little bit nervous there at the American Airlines Center for a bit. But then they responded again. Another power play goal. What a nice pass from Duchesne to Wyatt for his second goal of the night. And then, of course, Marchment on the tip made it 5-2 at the end of the second, and that pretty much put it away to the point where Jared Bednar did what Peter DeBoer did in Game 4. I'm going to give my goalie a rest. This game's out of reach. We'll sit Blackwood for the third period and put Scott Wedgwood in, who actually had a pretty solid third period in relief for Colorado in net. But Dallas gets a very impressive 6-2 win. They were ready from the get-go. They clearly were able to park how bad, and it was truly ugly, how bad and ugly that game was in Denver in Game 4. And now here they are with no Miro Heiskanen, no Jason Robertson, all series, being doubted, being saying, oh, this is now going to be, Colorado in a landslide. That was a very popular opinion among the masses. And now here's Dallas basically saying you can take that opinion and stick it, because now they're up 3-2 and 1 win away from winning this series. And got to give them a lot of credit for that, with how undermanned they've been and how great a team Colorado is, that they are 1 win away. Now, it's not going to be easy. This Colorado team knows Dallas ended their season last year, and they ended it in Game 6 in Denver last year in overtime. So don't put it past Dallas to finish this off Thursday night in Denver. Not going to be easy. I expect a massive response from the Avs with their backs against the wall, facing elimination. But I think we've got to give Dallas a little credit. They've gotten off the mat how many times in this series? And they're showing you why they've been to a conference final 2 years in a row, in my opinion, with just the resolve to battle back the number of times they have, Alex.
Yeah, and it's funny, we go all the way back to Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, November, Christmas time, December, and we said, wow, based on what we're seeing, Dallas, whoever Dallas draws in that first round, that's going to be a hell of a matchup. Maybe it's Colorado. Colorado's kind of going through their growing pains at the time, going through some injuries and some bumps. But then eventually, as we get into March and April, we said, wow, this is going to be a collision course. And then we were all pissed off about how we'd love to see this be a second round matchup. It's going to be a first round matchup. But the entire time we said this, we're saying this is going to be a long, drawn out battle of a series. And then all of a sudden, we get, pull up right into right before game one. And like I said, everybody just sees, because Dallas had lost 7 in a row, that the momentum is going to just completely fall off the table. It's a quick series for Colorado. And then you even have Dallas steal 2 games, steal a game in Denver, steal an overtime game in game 3, and everyone's still counting them out. When, like I said, they don't ask, we talked about it before the show, they don't ask how, they ask how many. You're up 2-1 for a reason, because you were able to find the goals you needed at the right times. And now to have this momentum going forward, that's the thing. You can't give a good team good momentum. That was the what we all said in the playoff preview going in, was that you have to sustain your pressure. Whichever team has momentum, they have to keep sustaining. You can't lay back in this series if you're out of the squad. So now Dallas has that momentum edge, and you gain a stronger momentum edge sometimes by being lucky and getting those overtime wins rather than dominating and winning in a series 2-0. Look at the LA Kings. Okay, so having a dominance in the first 2 games doesn't always mean shit. Sometimes being lucky is better than being good, and that's what we're seeing right now with Dallas. So now Dallas has to be good to close this out in Game 6 or Game 7. But you got your luck part. Now you have to be good. That's the way I look at this right now. And that's not to say that Colorado's dead in the water either, because they have a talented squad and a talented bunch. We've seen Mackenzie Blackwood play dynamite all series. Even in the game last night, you look at the shot chart of Dallas, everything's right on the doorstep. Everything's just it's one of the neater looking
all right.
shot charts.
I thought he was solid. I thought
he played great.
Yep.
He made some huge saves. Still, that could have been a runaway game if it was the Mackenzie Blackwood we've seen in years previous. He's had a hell of a series. Even if they lose this one in 6, lose this one in 7, you can't hang it on him, because he has done his job. He's had a great performance so far in this first round of the playoffs, especially for a guy who didn't have that much playoff experience coming into it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens down the rest of the series. Like I said, it's been fun to watch already. I'm expecting a barn burner for Game 6 and potentially Game 7 if necessary.
And it's big for Dallas going into Game 6 and a potential Game 7 if it gets there. That Wyatt Johnston's getting the mojo back. Mikko Rantanen finds his first goal of the series. The big guns, and of course Marchment chipping in, Sagan getting back into the flow, and of course scored the overtime winner back in Game 3. All those guys are stepping up, and you needed it, because some of them have been quiet in this series, but you got everyone starting to contribute now throughout this lineup. And for that blue line, look, I give them all the credit. That blue line is undermanned, and they're a much worse blue line without Miro Heiskanen. But you're hearing some opinions that it's an AHL blue line without Miro Heiskanen. That's a little rough. I mean, when you're looking at the effort of guys like foot soldiers, grinders last night, like Petrovic, who's ramming everybody physically into the glass and playing a physical game, blocking shots, doing the best he can, all-out effort. Cody Ceci loses a skate blade, still manages to help block a shot, keep the puck from getting to the net. The foot soldiers of the Dallas blue line. The blue liners that a lot of people don't think are worth a crap on this team, they have stepped up in the absence of, especially last night. I thought Petrovic played great. Ceci played great. Lyubushkin, who's had some issues down the stretch, I thought he played a really good game last night as well. And they deserve some shout outs and some credit for helping get the win last night. And I know our Dallas Stars fan friend, Maddie, a very happy guy after last night.
For sure. Definitely a good game for the Stars, but it's not over until they get that 4th win. So
that's right.
I think the way you look at it, I listened to the Dallas Sports Radio this morning. Josh Bogorod, one of the color commentators, or the play-by-play commentator for the Stars, was on. And clearly that game shows you that momentum game to game is much less of a factor. Colorado absolutely dominated Dallas in game 4. And then last night, Dallas comes out and wins 6-2. They let Colorado back into it. It was 3-2 at one point, and then they, scored 2 goals in the last 4 minutes of the period, and then kind of went into cruise control from there. To me, so what he was kind of saying and what I really agree with is, it's less of a factor of like, does any of that momentum go into game 6 on a team level? Not really. Does individual momentum, do guys like Mikko Rantanen, do guys like Wyatt Johnston, they come out, have a great game. Mikko had a couple points, finally gets that first goal against his old team. Do those guys play with a little more confidence? And that's something that I think will happen. All series long, McKinnon's been great for Colorado. I think it was maybe game 2 or 3. I think he looked a little out of sorts, but overall, he's been their best player as he needs to be. And Dallas, as Alex mentioned, had sort of squeaked by with some depth scoring. Colin Blackwell being an OT hero. Sagan's looked good. Ben's looked good, but they were missing 4 of their top 5 scorers with the absence of Robertson. Had 1 goal coming into this to the game last night, and that was Rupe on the power play. But to see Wyatt score 9 seconds in and kind of put a fuck you to the Dallas has only been up for 62 seconds in the series. And then, that Mikko goal, the pass from Hens, just perfection. Those guys have played together since they were teenagers, and it shows on plays like that. So you could tell everyone on the team was happy for Mikko. It's been I think he's second in the playoffs right now on shots on goal, and he had 0 goals. So that one's got to feel good for sure. And then he did have a couple chances on the power play later in the game as well, I think in the third period. So overall, a great game for Dallas. It puts them in a position to have an opportunity to close it out in 6, to give Miro that additional rest, to get ready for round 2. All sorts of things you can look at. Do I think, they're locked up, going to win game 6? Absolutely not. I think it's going to be a battle. And Pete DeBoer said after the game, that Avs team you saw in game 4, I expect the exact same Avs team to be out there in game 6. Did Dallas, put their best foot forward in game 4? Absolutely not. But they're going to expect the Avalanche to come out swinging with their backs against the wall. They don't want their summer to start on Friday morning. And so, if Dallas is going to have a chance to close it out, they're going to have to play as good as they played last night, if not better. So the one thing is Ian, we were talking about it a little bit before the game, is Jake Ottinger in games 5 through 7 is traditionally, almost a different goalie. And it's not to say he's a slack goalie in games 1 through 4, but just statistically speaking, when it's later in the series, he made a comment after the game last night. He's like, I just want to win this in 6 so I can, get to bed a little earlier. Maybe in round 2, we get a little earlier start time. So he's an old soul. He's, he's in his early 20s, but he acts like he's 40. So, I expect a good game out of him. And that's the big question mark. Can Blackwood respond? He was great for Colorado in the first 4 games of the series. Even with those 2 losses in overtime, he has not been the negative factor, as Alex mentioned. But it's tough. He's never been in the playoffs. He's off to this hot run. He gets a shutout, and then boom, he gets pulled in his next start. Can he bounce back and put his best foot forward? I think it's one of those things. If Dallas gets rolling early, he starts to think, man, maybe I'm not the goalie that I was playing as. And yeah, overall, I think a really solid game for Dallas. It was good to see their top players get some goals. Thought Wyatt played great. I thought that Sagan puck possession play on the Marchment goal just shows that despite his hip surgery, like, he is playing like prime Sagan, and that's good to
it's
see.
crazy how well he's moving out there. 100%. Yep.
Yeah, stops and starts and keeping the puck along the wall and then making the play up to Petrovic. And then the last point, you mentioned them. Petrovic and Bichel have been very good.
Yeah, Bichel deserves credit too. That guy is take no prisoners with his aggression and his intensity and his physicality, and he should. He's a big man. Don't play soft. You're a big guy. Use your frame. Dominate physically.
He had a cool video at the end of the game. Up on the jumbotron, kind of getting the fans going. He's 20 years old, but he's a fan favorite. Kind of gives Darian Hatcher vibes a little bit just with the way he plays. So, and yeah, to your point, the other D have really stepped up. I didn't have a lot of hope for CC and Labushkin against the Colorado team, but I think, neither has been a big issue for Dallas. So it will be interesting to see who comes out if and when Miro's ready to go, because I think every defenseman in that lineup has made a case that they deserve to be playing in the playoffs. So still a long road ahead. Got to get that next win to get to round 2, and looking forward to Thursday night's game.
That's right. Tom Petty said it. Long, long road. It is a long road still. Yeah, and a lot of, and I guarantee you, Colorado is not going to go away quietly and have their season end 2 years in a row at home by the same team, the Dallas Stars, on home ice. So Game 6, it's going to be hell of an effort from Colorado. Will it be enough to extend the series to Game 7 is the question. We're going to extend the show to tonight's action here on the Tuesday card, and we will begin with the Battle of Ontario, Game 5, and the Toronto Maple Leafs looking to finish off the Ottawa Senators. Toronto -160, home favorites, 5.5 the total here in this game. The Leafs, obviously, I thought played maybe their best game of the series in Game 4, but that's the one they lost here in this series. So we'll see how it plays out. But definitely, I think when you look at Toronto, there's not really much to criticize, even though they lost that game. Again, in the third period, Ottawa didn't get many scoring chances, not many shots on goal. And obviously, they ended up getting the one from Perron on the deflection, one that the Leafs were able to answer and tie it up. But like I said, for Toronto, this is where you're supposed to learn from the struggles of the past, the collapses of the past. You have a chance to end the series, do it. Now, the elephant in the room is the 1-12 record that the Leafs have in series clinching playoff games, which is horrific. It is beyond bad that they could possibly be 1-12 in their last 13 series clinching games. But those were all Babcock teams, Keefe teams. Those were all different coaches, different times, younger, more inexperienced, Marner and Matthews and Nylander. This is the chance with Berube now, who's a bona fide winner as a head coach and has the Stanley Cup to prove it, where it's supposed to be different. And this is a spot to end it. I think they will. I would actually not mind taking a shot with Ottawa had I not bet Leafs in 6 before the series started. I've got Leafs in 6, so there's no reason for me to bet Ottawa here, because that's essentially Ottawa wins, I get to 6, and then we can go from there and with it. But 1-12 is just, it's really bad, but I feel it's got a chance to end tonight. I do like the Leafs to score in the first period here. That angle, of course, the loser of the previous game, which continues to cash here moving forward. This is an elimination game, so I'm automatically grabbing 2 bets in every elimination game we're going to talk about tonight and moving forward. 3, in fact. As I'm jumping on the Alex train with what he's talked about in some of these games as well. Over 5.5, full game, just full game, because we want the third period on our side. A pregame third period over 2, because it's an elimination game, and we know how strong those elimination game overs have been in the third period. An empty net goal, which you can get at plus price. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's something to look at now in these elimination games, because especially if Ottawa's the team trailing late in the third, extended empty net time, because often coaches will pull the goalie a little bit earlier when they're facing their season being done and have to maybe spend a little more time with the extra attacker, or at least give their team a little extra time with the extra attacker. So that's the pregame approach. Leafs to get a goal in the first, over 5.5, third period over 2, and an empty net goal at plus money. And anything else we do during this game will be in game. Alex, Battle of Ontario, Game 5.
So we've had our system plays throughout the year, so we got something fun here, and I kind of came up with this on the fly today. It's something that we've looked at, like I said, throughout the playoffs already, and trends that we've had in previous years. I'm calling it the elimination bundle. I'm taking a unit, and I'm splitting it amongst 4 bets. Empty net goal, I got yes, plus 115. Maple Leafs to score the empty net goal, plus 245. Sens Leafs third period over 2, minus $1.10. And then for a little bit of extra gusto, because how many times do we see if it's 4-2, a team will go and pull that goalie again, especially in an elimination spot. I'm going Sens Leafs third period over 2.5, plus 155. All 4 bets available at BetMGM. that's going to be something I'm going to start doing now for these elimination games. I'll be doing this for another game later on tonight.
Exactly. There you go. I like it. There we go. And of course, the other elimination game is the other East game that we have, Carolina, New Jersey, which we'll get to in just a moment. Matt, what do you think here? Ottawa, Toronto, Game 5.
I'm gonna lean Toronto in this one. I wouldn't be that surprised if Ottawa finds a way to, extend the series. But I think this Toronto team,
it is Toronto. That
series,
would be a reason for Ottawa extending the series. Yeah.
And I did see it. To be honest, if you think Ottawa's winning this game, don't take them plus 140. Take them to win the series in 7 at plus 850.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not saying that that's my bet. But if you like Ottawa to win this game and then go back and win in Ottawa and then close it out in 7, plus 850 is a pretty good price. But I think Toronto gets it done tonight. I think, we sort of talked about it games 1, 2, especially their games in Toronto. They just sort of look like, okay, we fucked up for 7 years in a row in these playoff series. Like this year, we're doing it a little different. Will they win the Stanley Cup? I don't know, but will they get through the first round? It seems like they're built and have that maturity to kind of get through this first round. So, you add guys like Chris Tanev, that's a big piece in these playoff rounds. So I think Toronto gets it done. I don't know if I'm going to lay minus 160. I absolutely love that elimination bundle by Alex, so I'll probably jump on that with him. But yeah, not a lot. This is a game I'm going to watch. I love watching any elimination game, but don't really have a feel for sides or totals. I lean over because I do think, Toronto is going to want to come out hot and close it out. Ottawa is going to come out and they want to score the first goal so that they get some confidence rolling. So I could see first period full game overs in this one, but this will definitely be one exciting to watch. So
if you're into block shot props, and I actually bet one in this game, we got to look at someone that's gone over 1.5 blocked shots in 4 straight games. Benny! That's his nickname, by the way, Benny. Simone Benoit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Benny and the Leafs! Yeah, Simone Benoit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Over 1.5 block shots. It's hard to do that Elton John falsetto voice, but that's another story. Over
you got to go from the gut with that.
Yeah, minus 135. It's great value, actually, to only lay minus 135, over 1.5 blocks for Simone Benoit. There you go. 4 straight, he's gone over that. So basically, all 4 games in this series, he's gone over 1.5 block shots. So there you go. I think that's worth a look. Point props. Hungry Nyes, 1 goal from you and Matthew Nyes, obviously. Point prop, goal prop, no question about it. Jake Sanderson, back-to-back games with points for Ottawa from the blue line. So those guys have reasonable prices as far as their props tonight in this game. Jonathan, funny. I saw that. Tavares actually has gone over 2.5 shots in 2 straight games. And there's another song reference, me and Bobby McMahon. No. Bobby McMahon for the Toronto Maple Leafs, over 1.5 shots on goal. He's been snake bit offensively, but he's still firing the puck. He's gone over his shot prop in 2 straight games for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So there's something to keep in mind. Oh, and Brady Tkachuk as well. Him to get a point, like I said, 3 straight games. So goal, assist, shots on goal makes sense for Brady Tkachuk too. He's the captain. They're facing elimination. So those are all some props that I'm interested in here tonight in this one. All right, and by the way, still all Mark and Stolars, no changes in net. Unlike this game, New Jersey and Carolina, with Carolina looking to finish off the New Jersey Devils. Carolina minus 280, home favorites. Lenovo Center in Raleigh, North Kakalaki, 5.5 the total here in this game. Carolina up in the series by a score of 3-1. Look at this New Jersey blue line. Just look at it. Look at how decimated. It was already decimated because they're still without Brendan Dillon. They're still without Luke Hughes. And they didn't have Johnny Kovacevic in Game 4 as well in the 5-2 loss to the Hurricanes. Well, guess who showed up on the injury report now on that blue line? Brett Pesce, who is a game-time decision tonight due to an injury sustained last game, undisclosed. Jonas Siegenthaler, one of the best shutdown defenders on this blue line for New Jersey, who just returned 2 games ago after a very long absence. He had a setback with his lower body injury situation, and he may not go tonight. He's also a game-time decision for the New Jersey Devils. what the hell are you going to do on this blue line? You're already down Dylan, Hughes, Kovacevic, and now a Pesce and or Siegenthaler may not go either. That's too much to overcome, in my opinion. You know, you've already got Nemec and Chalowski in there. Your other options are Colton White, Seamus Casey, Topias Wieland, who's a Finnish defenseman prospect. I don't think he's played a lick in the NHL to this point. Yeah, they're probably hoping like hell that at least they have Siegenthaler and Pesce available, and they still might go. And because it's an elimination game, I wouldn't rule them out just yet. They'll probably try to gut it through it, even if they're less than 100%, because it's backs against the wall for New Jersey. But even if Siegenthaler and Pesce play, how healthy are they? And you could be playing like with 4 healthy defensemen potentially tonight, even if they do play. And if they don't play, then you've basically got Dougie Hamilton, Brian Dumoulin, and a bunch of fucking inexperience and youth, and in a spot where you got to win to stay alive. It's just too much, in my opinion, for New Jersey to overcome here. Now, I guess the one thing you'd be, optimistic about for New Jersey is Freddie Anderson was playing very well before he got injured. We'll give him that. He was having a pretty solid series, and Game 4 in particular, before he got Game 3, he played very well, even though that's the game New Jersey won. Game 4, he got off to a solid start, but the injury happened. That's Freddie Anderson's career in a nutshell. He just a little bump, and it wasn't hard contact, and all of a sudden he's out. And in comes Pyotr Kochetkov. And look, Kochetkov, here's the thing you're optimistic about if New Jersey, if you have any chance to maybe extend this series. Kochetkov didn't play well down the stretch, and there's still some question marks there. And he hasn't played a ton in the playoffs. But after giving up the quick goal to Meyer in Game 4 after entering the game for Freddie, I thought he played pretty well after that, Kochetkov. So something to build on for him as Pyotr Kochetkov gets this start in a potential closeout game for the Carolina Hurricanes on home ice. Whatever New Jersey's best punch is, it's probably coming early, and we know the angle's been strong, so we're going to obviously take New Jersey to score in the first period in this game, which is actually something that they have done a lot recently. Game 2, they scored a goal in the first period of that game. We obviously saw them get on the board first period as well of Game 3, the off losses. So we'll see if that continues here tonight in this game. It's only a cheap -105, -110 price for the Devils in the first period to score a goal with their backs against the wall facing elimination. So I like that. But I like Carolina team total, full game, over 3.5, because I just think this is too much of a decimated blue line here right now for the New Jersey Devils to overcome. So Carolina team total for the game, which you can get over 3.5. And the same bets I mentioned with Ottawa, Toronto. Full game over 5.5. Third period over 2. And also the empty net goal at plus money. With this also being a potential elimination game. Alex, your thoughts here, Devils Hurricanes Game 5.
Well, so you mentioned the decimated Devils blue line, and you also talked about how there's no Frederik Andersen. It's going to be Pyotr Kochetkov. Now, you hope Pyotr Kochetkov is going to be all right and ready to play, because the guys behind him are quite dicey. The third string goalie who was actually available in the last game, and who's the third guy now, is skating.
Spencer Martin's been called up, by the way.
Right.
I should.
Spencer Martin's been called up. Right. Spencer Martin's been called up. He will be the backup. Your third goalie in any instance would be Ruslan Kazhaev, who I got to watch early in the year with the Chicago Wolves, and he was fucking dreadful. He had a 5-13 record. He looks like a goalie fresh out of water. Like, he's someone you definitely don't want to throw into this situation. So if Kochetkov, hopefully he's sturdy, looks good. Spencer Martin actually looked pretty good in the AHL later on in the year. So those are going to be your two guys kind of moving forward, because we don't know what, with Freddie Anderson, his injury history and the type of injury, who knows how long he could be out. Carolina advances in the series. So just a note moving forward, kind of the way I'm looking at it. And those are things I have reflected in the goalie charts when I update those in a couple of days on Patreon as well. But as far as this game, I like 7 plays here. I'm going with New Jersey, first period, team total over, half at even money. I like both teams to score in the first period at plus 200, and you can get the first period over 1.5 right now, even money. And then we're splitting up a unit again and going back with the elimination package. An empty net goal. Carolina to get the empty net goal, and then third period over 2, third period over 2.5. I got minus 105 for that third period over 2, plus 165 for the over 2.5.
We go. I like it. The only thing I'm not doing that Alex is with the third period bets is the specific team to score the empty net goal,
Right.
which I don't blame him for. It's great value. I just played a little safer with just asking for one empty net goal, regardless of who scores it. But I don't blame. Go for the value, especially if the team that's trying to do the eliminating, obviously, which in this case is the Carolina Hurricanes. Here's another live betting strategy for these games too. Let's say this game's 3-2 Carolina, 8 minutes to go in the third period. Take a shot live betting Carolina team total over, because you know you're going to get a chance for, and maybe even an alt team total if they're still offered.
Yep.
You could get 1 or 2 empty net goals from Carolina, because you know New Jersey's pulling over and over again with their season on the line and no tomorrow. So that is another thing to keep in mind from a live betting strategy perspective. Live team total overs midway through the third period, just past the midway mark. If a team's up by 1 or 2 goals and that team that's leading is looking to finish off the opponent and win the series, it's a potential really strong live betting strategy, because they could tack on those empty net goals with the other team just, backs against the wall, needing to pull the goalie oftentimes earlier. Something to really look for and maybe cash in and capitalize on. Matt, what do you think here? New Jersey, Carolina.
For sure, I'm feeling Carolina in this one. I'm not going to lay minus 280 though, but I think they get it done tonight. New Jersey's just too banged up on the back end. It's in Carolina. That arena has been rocking in this series, so I expect this one to end tonight. Could New Jersey pull it out and go back to Newark?
They need a Markstrom Vezina type performance, and he's capable of it, but that's what it would take. It would need him stealing a game, I think, for it to happen, which actually goes part and parcel with, I think, I haven't bet it, but I'm probably going to, Markstrom over saves. I think he's going to get peppered tonight, especially if this blue line is, if they're without Siegenthaler and Pesce too. Markstrom's facing 30, 40 shots tonight, easily, in my opinion. Maybe not easily with 40, but easily 30 he's going to face tonight. Remember, Carolina's a high shot volume team as well.
Yeah, I like that look as well, because, again, Markstrom's going to have to play lights out, and I think the other key is New Jersey's going to have to score a power play goal at some point if they want to keep this series going. So could that happen? Of course. But I think Carolina gets it done tonight. But for me, it's just going to be a simple over trifecta. First period, both teams to score, and a full game over at 5.5. I think, Carolina, if they come out rolling, they could get to 5 or 6 goals on their own. But if New Jersey can chip in, score one in the first, maybe get 1 or 2 the rest of the way, I think it sails over this 5.5. So that'll be my main plays on this one.
Yeah, as far as props for me, I like Svechnikov, goal, assist, or the point prop. He's gotten it in 2 straight. Jarvis and Aho, 3 straight with a point. So you could go goal and assist to break it up, since the point prop's probably a little too expensive. If I'm going to look at anyone for New Jersey, I'm going to stick to mostly Meyer and especially the captain, Nico Hischier, because Nico Hischier is the one guy that's gotten it done here. 2 straight games with a point for him, the captain of the Devils, and 2 straight games with a goal for Nico Hischier as well. And you would expect he's going to bring one heck of an effort, win or lose tonight. The captain is going to certainly do everything he can to try to extend this series. Great points by Jonathan about Brian Dumoulin. 2 straight games over 1.5 shots, and it's a reasonable price, minus 140. And he's had 9 in the last 2 games. Slavin's gone over 1.5 blocks in 2 straight games for the Hurricanes. Dougie Hamilton has gone over 1.5 blocks, 2 straight games for New Jersey. Siegenthaler as well, but Siegenthaler may not play tonight, so we'll have to wait on that. And yes, Martinook for Carolina had said, even in the games he did not get a goal or get a point, he was buzzing around and had chances. So Martinook is just one of those players where you bet either a goal assist prop or point prop every game, you're probably going to end up being profitable, especially the goal prop because of the prices you're getting. And at home, I think there's a chance we might see some magic from Martinook magic in the playoffs, something that he's been able to do quite a bit. Jackson Blake, goal, assist, or point as well. I wouldn't talk anyone out of that here tonight as well. So, again, another game where there's some good prop betting opportunities. All right, next up, we've got Minnesota and Vegas. As we move out west, Vegas minus 240, home favorites. Total in this game, 5.5, shaded to the over. This series is tied at 2 games apiece. Minnesota's got to feel pretty good, actually, even though they lost game 4 in overtime, that here we are, best of 3 against this Vegas Golden Knights team. And they should come into this game thinking, you know what? We won game 2 in this building at T-Mobile Arena, and we absolutely jumped on Vegas early in that game as well, and then basically led wire to wire in that 5-2 win in game 2. And even in the 4-2 loss here at T-Mobile Arena back in game 1 for Minnesota, they didn't play that bad in that game. I thought they played pretty solid overall. I think the big surprise in this story was I didn't have this series necessarily pegged to be over Palooza, but 4 straight overs in this series, full game, and 4 straight overs to the first period. So it's a 4-0 first period over, 4-0 full game over run that we have seen so far in this series between the Wild and the Golden Knights. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm definitely taking the over by Fecta here with the Wild and the Golden Knights. It's perfect in the series, both first period over and full game over. I'm taking Minnesota to score in the first period. They're the team coming off the loss. Talked about that angle ad nauseum. So it's Minnesota goal in the first period for me here, coming off that overtime defeat at home in game 4. I think they'll come out with great purpose, and kind of like what we saw when they lost game 1 and they played game 2. They were definitely coming after Vegas early in that game in game 2. So the first period, Minnesota to get a goal, minus 125, minus 130, pretty good price with that. Over by Fecta. And I'm going to sprinkle on this Minnesota Wild money line. At this price, I'm going to dabble in it. I mean, plus 200 is what we're seeing at some spots. And I've seen Minnesota play well enough in 4 games of this series that you're paying a tax, in my opinion, for Vegas here at home. Vegas can win at home, no doubt. And they certainly got some of their mojo back, and Jack Eichel did. And some of their big guns did, of course, in game 4 as well. But there is not a time in this series where I watch the flow of the 4 games and say Vegas should be this big a favorite over Minnesota with the way the Wild have played. And still, we'll go back to it. The damage that Kaprizov and Boldy, those 2 guys have had it done in this series to Vegas. Not to mention how some of the other guys have stepped up. Zuccarello and the series that Marcus Foligno's played for the Minnesota Wild. Hartman, you go on down the list and how well some of them have played. So this is too much of a tax, in my opinion, on Vegas. And win or lose, I'm very comfortable taking the shot here. Minnesota at plus 200. Alex, what do you think here? A big game 5, Minnesota, Vegas.
Yeah, the books are almost kind of begging you to take Minnesota at this high of a price. This is a crazy price for a playoff line. But I'm not taking the bait here. I like Vegas to win this game. I think getting the momentum back at home is going to be solid for them. But there's other ways to play it than obviously laying 240. 2 things I did. I laid $1.10 with the team total over 3.5. And I also like that combo bet at BetMGM. So I'm going to go with the plus price here in this parlay. It's Vegas to win and over 5.5 goals plus 140. So I'll be playing the over separately as well. That over 5.5 is minus 125, available at DraftKings, available at Circa. If you like under, you can get under 6s at a lot of places like FanDuel and MGM. So please shop around for that. But you can use the combination too. If you like Minnesota, and you can get over 4.5, over 5.5. MGM would be your friend for that combination as well. But definitely liking goals here. I think the over continues, that trend continues. But I think Vegas, this will look a lot like game 1. I think it'll be kind of a back and forth pace. But Vegas pulls away late, maybe gets an empty net goal or 2. I don't have any empty net plays in this one, but I like the overs. I like Vegas to win here, and I think they come back here to St. Paul with the lead.
Let me just throw this out at you. Ryan Hartman has a point in every game in this series, and it's an assist in every game. And his point prop is plus 175 tonight. That's right, plus 175. His assist prop is plus 310 in some spots.
Oh, man.
It's sick value. I mean, it is. I mean, my goodness for this guy. And he's just been in the middle of a lot of things offensively for Minnesota here in this series. Like, he's plus 175 to get a point. He's plus 310 to get an assist. He has a point in every game in this series, and all 4 of the points he's gotten in this series in each game have been assists. So there you go. It's you got to take it at those prices.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Marcus Foligno. I'm going back to the well. He's not a bargain bin special tonight, but I'm sure taking him to score plus 900 again. Why not? With what he's been able to do in this series for the Minnesota Wild. Marcus Foligno playing a great series, physical, making an impact offensively. Of course, Eriksson, Boldy, and Kaprizov, which has been a problem for Vegas in this series. Can they keep them under wraps? It's the critical element in the series, and it's been their downfall in the games they've lost, not being able to defend those guys, no question about it. And then on the flip side, I do want to make note of something here for Vegas. It looks like Wild Bill, William Karlsson's going to be moved up to with the top line with Eichel and Dorofeyev. Yeah, Marco Rossi too, Jonathan. Excellent. I think that's back-to-back. I think he scored in both games in Minnesota, Marco Rossi. So his goal prop, I agree. It's good value. But Karlsson with Eichel and Dorofeyev. Yeah, Dorofeyev for Vegas with Eichel and Karlsson. Karlsson's being moved up there. Stone with Hurdle and Saad. Riley Smith, Nick Waugh. Close shave Barbashev. He's the guy that gets dropped a little bit in favor of Karlsson moving up with Eichel and Dorofeyev. So I think there's value on Karlsson. And Karlsson's a guy that's performed and produced in the playoffs before for this Vegas team and just hasn't had that same pop and production level so far this year in the playoffs. He's got just 1 point in this series, which came in Game 3. But definitely value on William Karlsson, Wild Bill, as they call him, if he indeed plays on that top line, which is where I see him slotted in right now for Bruce Cassidy's bunch tonight. What else? I mentioned it with Hartman. It's great value. Riley Smith actually has a point in back-to-back games. So does Rossi for the Wild. And, of course, Rossi goals in back-to-back games. Foligno with the 3 straight games with a goal. And that's why, to me, the plus 900 is absolutely insane value right there for him. And then we flip it to block shots. Spurgeon. It's too much juice, though, but he has gone 7 straight over 1.5 blocked shots for the Minnesota Wild. Middleton for the Wild has gone over 2.5 shots in 2 straight games. We thought Braden McNabb was a great shots on goal contender candidate for this team, but believe it or not, there's been some games he stayed under in this series so far. Matt, what do you think here? Wild Golden Knights.
Excited to watch this one. I kind of agree with points from both you guys. I think Minnesota has surprised me and surprised a lot of people, but showing that they belong in this series, they can play in this series, they can play with Vegas. I do agree with Alex, getting some momentum in that Game 4, Vegas heading home, maybe they ride that momentum a little bit. It's going to be a tough game for Minnesota, but I'm just going to ride with the trend of the series and just be on the over by Fecta. I'm not going to lay the juice with Vegas. I could see taking a shot with Minnesota, hoping they steal one here at T-Mobile Arena, but I think I'm just going to keep it simple. Hope both teams continue to kind of play the way they have, and hope we get some goals in this one. But definitely it'll be exciting to watch. It'll be interesting to see how Minnesota responds. They had that 2-1 series lead. They lose a game at home. Vegas kind of gets some mojo going. So I think it'll be a fun one to watch, and I'm looking forward to it, but hopefully we get some goals.
Good stuff. Should be a good one tonight. Definitely, no question. John Merrill in, Zeev Buium out, and didn't play much in overtime for Minnesota in Game 4. So I guess to just, give the young kid a break. John Merrill, veteran defenseman, goes in with Bogosian, and of course everything else stays the same. Brodin, Faber, Middleton, Spurgeon for the Wild on the back end for them. For Vegas, not really a ton of change, winning lineup. So status quo for them, other than the few line changes that I just mentioned a moment ago there. All right, last game of the night, and another big one in the West because it's 2-2. The LA Kings hosting the Edmonton Oilers. Los Angeles minus 125 home favorites, 6.5 the total. Like I said, say goodbye to the 5.5. You're not going to see those anymore in this series, but there are still a couple books that have 6 for the total. So yes, I'm on the over again. Shocker. 4 straight overs in this series. Why would you not be? But I'm only on the full game over this time. Over 6 minus 115. There's been a couple games that did go over in the first period, but there's been a couple games that haven't gone over in the first period. Like Game 4 in Edmonton's a perfect example. And every second period in this series has gone over not just 1.5 goals, but 2.5 goals. So I'm making a pregame bet over 2.5 goals in the second period, alternative for Kings and Oilers. Like every second period between these two teams has had 3 goals or more so far in the first 4 games. So a little, it's definitely something I noticed, obviously, after game 4. It's like these second periods have gone high wire here with the Oilers and the Kings. And yes, sure enough, all 3 second period, or all 4 second periods in this series not only went over 1.5 goals, but 2.5 goals. So it's been definitely something to look at throughout this series, no doubt, and something to keep an eye on for sure. So like I said, that's definitely something to monitor. That's why I took it. They over 2.5 in the second period, pre-period. So when you look at this game, I think obviously this is going to be a very fascinating game, because LA's home dominance we know how great they are here on home ice this year, no doubt. And they're going to need every ounce of that home ice and that crowd to respond and bounce back mentally from the pain and the anguish and the just gut-wrenching losses they suffered in Edmonton. 2 games they could ease. We may not even be talking about this series going right now. Seriously. Could be talking about a King sweep if they found a way to close out games in game 3 and game 4, which they were unable to do. They've won this. They've controlled this series with offense that we weren't expecting to see from the Kings, this kind of offensive explosion from them. But they have worked over a thin Edmonton blue line, playing without their best defenseman, Matthias Ekholm, and a lot of question marks elsewhere. And they've done it with their offense and their power play, which has been sizzling in this series. And they've done it by being on the front foot and aggressive and pushing the pace and being in the O-zone, not sitting back. That's what got them the leads in game 1 and in game 2 and in game 3. But they sat back in game 1 at home, and it almost cost them. They had to survive that game. Game 3, third period lead, they sat back, shell mode type of play, conservative. They stopped skating. They weren't pressing the issue. They weren't forechecking in the offensive zone in game 3, and they blew that game. And same thing in game 4. And then, of course, to add insult to injury for LA, just the nonsense with the ice time deployment, which I ranted about big time on yesterday's show. If you missed it, from Jim Hiller and this coaching staff, I still can't believe it. Maybe this guy's going to grow a brain tonight and say, maybe I should play my 6th defenseman for more than 2 minutes, especially with only 1 day off too. That's what's even more inexcusable about Hiller's actions in game 4. With the bench and playing a guy 2 minutes on defense, playing Samuel Hellenius for less than 2 minutes for a game that almost went 80 minutes of game time. What makes it worse is you're wearing out Drew Doughty in his 30s, Edmondson in his 30s, older players, Kopitar too, he ran him into the ground from an ice time perspective. Older players, when you have 1 day off going into game 5, I'm worried about where the gas tank level is right now for the Kings, for their top guys, because he just plays them so much, and he's given 6th defenseman, 5th defenseman, a 4th line, 1 minute, 2 minutes in these games. It's just absolutely ridiculous what we saw, and I'm worried about the reverberating effect of what it's going to have. Here's a thought, Jim Hiller. These games and these players of yours for the Los Angeles Kings that you coach, they're human beings. They're not robots. They're not machines, dumb fuck. They're going to wear down and just be – they're not going to have anything left to offer if you're going to play them that much in a game like that when there's 1 day off between games like that. It's just ridiculous that they went about that route, and I worry about what we're going to see from the Kings tonight as a result. Are they going to look fatigued again? Because that's what I saw. I saw a tired, worn down, nothing left team in the gas tank the other night in game 4. Can they build it back up physically and be ready and have that energy, have that burst? The Kings won every game in this series and nearly won the 2 games in Edmonton with burst, energy. Their skating stride was very impressive, especially when you're playing against an Edmonton team that can skate. It's got 2 of the best players in the world, obviously. So I worry about that moving forward. So it's a very good watch and see, watch and observe, watch and evaluate start to this game. I'm leery of laying it with, and I don't have to lay it with the Kings here. I've got them to win the series. I'm a little bit more nervous about it now, but until they lose a home game, there's nothing to panic about if you're LA. But if they do lose tonight, then there is a lot of reason to worry. You may not see LA again, if you lose this game tonight. here in Game 5 and drop this home game because you worked your ass off to get home ice advantage because of how dominant you've been at home. And if you lose this game tonight, first home game of the series, and you go down 3-2 and all that momentum on Edmonton's side, like I said, you may not see the inside of Crypto.com Arena again after tonight if you lose this game. But I am going to take LA goal in the first period. That's the only LA bet I've got pregame. The angle, of course, off the loss, and it's been strong. I'm obviously going to take full game over 6, and I'm going to take second period over 2.5. Alternative second period team total over 2.5 with all 4 second periods between the Oilers and Kings in this series having 3 goals scored. I think it's definitely 4 goals, in fact, in Game 3 in the second period of this series. So, yeah, I think it's great value. Over 2.5 second period, 3 goals or more in every second period in this series. Alex, what do you think? This is great stuff, though, as far as a fan and an entertainment standpoint. How do the Kings respond? Have the Oilers totally grabbed the momentum of this series, and can they keep it? And more importantly, can they actually win on the road in LA, which has not been an easy place for them? It's been a while, actually, if you go back and look when Edmonton last won in LA. We'll see if they can break that schneid tonight. Alex, what do you think here? Game 5, Oilers-Kings.
Now, yeah, you can look at this as a glass half empty or half full situation. You could say that this is an Oilers team that's once again bouncing back and finding their resilience, trailing in a series like they did in the Cup final last year. Or you can look at this and say that the LA Kings are being coached by an idiot and have blown a chance to already close this series out and have given this Oilers team new life. I'm looking at it more of the latter perspective, but still keeping reserve and faith that LA coming back home where they've played well all season long, you just get back to your game at Crypto.com Arena and get back to your bread and butter. Playing sound defensive hockey in the first period, suffocating your opponent in the first period, getting a lead, hanging on that, and making adjustments moving forward. If they can get back to that, play this one period at a time, they can get that momentum right back from the Oilers. Because I'm not trusting that the Oilers are just going to come in here, march through, and take care of business in Game 5 and then just wrap things up in Game 6. That's going to be predicated on if LA doesn't show up. If LA comes out here dead flat, and if they don't have any gas because of how Hiller managed the bench in Game 3 and Game 4, and Edmonton jumps out to a big lead, this series is over. Kings have to play this game like it's Game 7 right now. Fuck Game 6, fuck Game 5. You have to worry about period 1 of this game and play it like it's Game 7. And you have to take the control of this series back. If you don't do that in games in the beginning of this game here in Game 5, you can forget about everything after that. So I'm on LA to score first goal in the first period, plus 115. And I'm taking the same approach you have with the second periods, but I'm going a little bit different with it. BetMGM has, you get second period goals, exactly 2 goals plus 240, 3 or more goals plus 155. So I'm going to be playing those two split up a little bit smaller, and then I'm going with Kings to get the first goal in the first period. I got that at plus, let me see, get that price right again. Yeah, plus 115.
All right, there we go. Good stuff. And I'll tell you right now, I'll get into more props after we hear from Matt regarding his thoughts on this game. But the best prop, now I said this about Bennett last night, and it didn't go well. He finally doesn't get a point for the Florida Panthers last night. But it's been filled to no for LA. I mean, it's just 6 games in a row with a point going back to the regular season, a point in every game in this series, and it's still plus money for him to get a point for this LA Kings team. It's just a great price. He's stepped up his game offensively. Fiala's on a 4-game point streak. Trevor Moore, I think, is a good point prop, as well. Score a goal, too, because 2 of the games in a row he scored for the LA Kings as well. Trevor Moore, the California kid. Kevin Fiala, goals in back-to-back games. Maybe Bushbaum, which is it's so true with Evan Bouchard. He has given Edmonton Oilers fans the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in this series. All the highs have been the offensive highs, the big shot, the big goals he scored last game. And he's been an absolute travesty and an abomination and an absolute nightmare defensively in his own zone many times throughout this series. It's the roller coaster that is Evan Bouchard right now. You love the offensive side of things with that guy. And the defensive side can just be an absolute travesty. And we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly from him. But offensively, we know he can get it going. and he does have a goal and points in back-to-back games, so, and good prices. So that's probably worth a look as well for props tonight. Matt, what do you think here? Game 5, Edmonton, LA.
I think LA bounces back here. They've just been so good at home, and until they prove to me that that's not the case, I'm going to back them a little bit here. But I'm definitely jumping on that second period over 2.5 that you mentioned, Ian. I'm going to split up the Kings team total over 3.5, which is plus like 110, and then the money line, which is obviously minus 125, minus 130. And then I'm going to do a little same game parlay, but I'm going to do it a little differently because I know you mentioned first period overs haven't flown over, but full games have all been over 6.5. So I'm going to do a same game parlay of first period over half. So I just need one goal by either team in the first, and then the full game over 6.5. And on MGM, that's plus 105. So you get a decent plus price on that. So I think LA bounces back. I think to the points both you guys have made, this is sort of a must win for LA. If they lose this game, they might be looking at, I think it would be the 4th year in a row that they get eliminated by Edmonton in the first round. Obviously not something they're hoping to do. The time on ice stuff and the shifts and the coaching factor does concern me quite a bit.
You played hockey for a very long time, Matt. How would you feel if you're Morvarare or if you're Samuel Hellenius and they put you in the lineup, they dress you for the game, you're in the lineup, you're on the lineup card. Oh, I think I'm going to make an impact, get at least fairly regular shifts, and I'm sitting there looking like a jackass because I'm only getting 1 minute 42 seconds on the ice for a game that almost went 80 minutes of game time. How would you feel?
It's wild. I mean, I can specifically remember a high school hockey game that we had a kid that was a senior that dressed for a game and didn't get on the ice one shift the entire game, and he left pretty upset after the game. I can imagine those guys are pretty pissed. I mean, I spent some time in the North American League on the 4th line getting irregular shifts, but definitely more than 2 minutes of ice time in a full hockey game. So yeah, that part concerns me. Do I still think LA is good enough to win this game and probably squeak out this series and at least move on to the second round? Sure, but it does give me some serious concerns about LA in the long run. Pre-playoffs, I didn't really factor that in too hard, and I was looking at their home record. I actually have the Kings in my bracket going pretty far. I don't feel that confident anymore. I think, whether they end up playing, if they do advance in this series, whether they play Minnesota or Vegas, I think they might be in trouble, especially if they're grinding out guys like Doughty for, 40 minutes in a night at his age. He was injured parts of this year. It's that to me is wild. But for tonight specifically, I like LA. We'll see how they come out. I expect them to respond. As I think both of you guys mentioned, if that's not the case, then pack it in. Edmonton's moving on to round 2. So we'll see. I feel good about LA tonight, and then from there we'll reevaluate based on how they play tonight.
All right. Matt saying that home ice will prevail once again for the 5th straight time in this series, and LA will get the job done minus 125. And by the way, just last point on this game, blocked shots. The 2 guys that are on consecutive game streaks over their block shots prop. Brett Kulak for Edmonton, over 1.5 at pretty good price, minus 115. And Joel Edmondson for LA has gone over his block shots prop 3 straight games, over 1.5 for him, minus 160 for that. And just one note, too, I'm on the draw in all but one game tonight. The only game I did not bet the draw was Carolina, New Jersey. Every other game, I took a small piece of the draw tonight. Ottawa, Toronto, Vegas, Minnesota, and this Edmonton, LA game. So hoping to cash 1 or 2 anyway for some profit. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. We cannot wait for Thursday night. A lot of these games we talked about on this show today, we're going to see Thursday night in Game 6. So we're looking forward to it. 3 Game 6s on tap Thursday night, May the 1st. Make sure you join us. It's a Patreon exclusive live betcast, which means you must be a Patreon member to join us for that betcast. and also be on the stream with us. So make sure you sign up. $10 per month. You get goalie charts, totals charts, all the bonus content, daily betting card, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page, plus all the access to our Patreon exclusive live betcasts. So make sure you get on board. Just $10 per month. And again, your subscription goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping us going long term. $10 per month. Patreon.com/IceGuys.
Also, check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. We're going to have a bunch of more specials coming up in May as well. A lot of savings. We got a lot of great shirts, a lot of great caps. A couple of items will be discontinued, though, in the next couple of weeks. So now's the time to shop. If you like something in the store now, grab it while it's still available. Don't miss out. That's all available right now at the Ice Guys store. That's iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, we got Bargain Bin Special of the night and Best Bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guy sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Tailgaters Social, and a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page. Everyone loves a perfect pair. Bacon and eggs. Thunder and lightning. Mario and Luigi. A hot dog with fries. Ian and Alex B. That's right. Everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
Hey, Alex, have you checked out the latest with the great trading platform Kalshi?
Yes, I have. It's been fantastic. This is one of the first and only federally regulated prediction markets in the U.S. And if you're looking for odds for all kinds of different things, not just what we're talking about, the markets in the Stanley Cup, the NBA Finals, you can trade with crypto. You can look for trades within the markets involving entertainment, politics. There's all kinds of different markets you can look for, and you can use the odds over at Kalshi.
Time of year to get involved with Kalshi. Certainly if you're a sports fan, Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA playoffs, baseball now underway, with all the different markets to create winning trades. Make sure you're checking out all that Kalshi has to offer.
Absolutely. And if you're trading with Kalshi, use the link kalshi.com/iceguys. You trade $100 or more, they will send you $10 back. So it's fantastic to use. Like I said, any kind of markets beyond sports. We're talking entertainment, politics, crypto, basically anything you want.
So make sure you sign up, kalshi.com/iceguys. Note that it's live on Robinhood and available in all 50 states, making it the first legal place to trade on these kind of events nationwide. Check it out, kalshi.com/iceguys. Shout out to all our great sponsors. Boston Hemp Inc., 20% off using the promo code IceGuys at bostonhempinc.com. And Kalshi, new ad, fresh off the presses there. Make sure you check them out. Sports, crypto, entertainment, politics, you name it. You can trade involving it at kalshi.com/iceguys. All right, bargain bin special of the night. We got 4 games on this Tuesday night to choose from. Alex, what do you like for bargain bin special?
So we're going to get a little creative here based off of just looking at a couple trends in this Minnesota-Vegas game. You mentioned the incredible value that you can get on Ryan Hartman to get a point in the contest. I'm looking at plus 164 to be specific at FanDuel. I'm going to combine that with Jack Eichel to get 2 points in the game. That's plus 200 by itself, but when you combine those together, that's plus 568. Ryan Hartman to get 1 point for the Wild, Jack Eichel to get 2 points for Vegas. Combine that in a parlay, a same game parlay at FanDuel for plus 568. That's my bargain bin special for tonight.
All right, great stuff. I like it. I like it. Nice creativity there for Alex with his bargain bin special of the night. Matt, what do you like here for bargain bin special?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a guy that is on a team that, we talked about. The coach is not playing everybody equally, but he's on the right side of things. He did get an assist last game. He had 35 shifts. Despite not being on the power play or penalty kill for LA. Give me Alex Laferriere anytime assist. I'm seeing it at plus 300 on MGM. I think he's going to continue to get a lot of shifts. He's playing on that line with Byfield is where it looks like he's slated for tonight. Just need him to chip in with an apple. So Alex Laferriere anytime assist. That'll be my bargain bin.
All right, the man from New Jersey, not Quebec. Remember that. Alex Laferriere for the LA Kings assist for Matt Robinson with his bargain bin special tonight. And I got 2 for you for this Tuesday night. We're going to Jordan Martinook plus 650 for Carolina. He's had chances. He's already scored in this series, but I think back home, depleted Devils blue line, a great chance at great value for Jordan Martinook to find the back of the net, plus 650. And my other bargain bin special, I think Alex had a winner earlier in this series with this guy for the Los Angeles Kings. Trevor Moore, plus 350 for the LA Kings. Back-to-back games with a goal for Trevor Moore. The California kid playing in California tonight because obviously Game 5 is in LA. Let's go with Trevor Moore. Ride the hot hand, plus 350 for the LA Kings for my second bargain bin special of the night. So Jordan Martinook, Trevor Moore, my 2 bargain bin specials of the night. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
It's elimination season, and I think we get our first shot at Patino game tonight. And I think the Leafs fans are going to be going crazy because I think they advance. We're going to see goals in the third period. Give me the third period over 2 minus $1.10 with Ottawa Toronto tonight as my best bet.
Sens Leafs over 2, third period. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. Matty Rob, what do you got for best bet?
I'm also going to go to an elimination game, but I'm going to go to the other elimination game, and I'm going to look for a hot start. There in Raleigh, fans there get fucking wild before the games. You've heard it talked about by the broadcasters, by guys on other podcasts. They love to tailgate there in Raleigh. The weather's warm. So I look for a first period over in New Jersey, Carolina. Doesn't matter how we get it. Feel good about both teams to score, but for this one, just need 2 total goals. So give me first period over in the Devils, Carolina. That'll be my best bet for tonight.
All right, Devils Canes first period over for Matt Robinson with his best bet. And my best bet here for this Tuesday, we're not getting the 5.5s, and there's not many 6s out there. There's mostly 6.5s, but a couple books still do have 6. We're going to go back to our friend, the Old Reliable, this series that just keeps going over the total, the Oilers and the Kings. And this is not just this year. This is last year. This is 2 years ago. I also worry about all the minutes on that LA blue line. As good as they can be defensively, I'm not sure they're going to shut down Edmonton tonight with this workload pouring up and this ridiculous bench management from their numbnuts coach. But nevertheless, I think Edmonton scores. LA has been no problem. LA has had scoring goals on home ice in this series against Edmonton. So I think there's goals both ways. Over 6 minus 116 is the best price available. Pinnacle, FanDuel still has a 6. We're going to go with Oilers Kings over 6 for my best bet here for this Tuesday. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And again, BetCast Thursday night. We cannot wait for that. 3 Game 6 elimination games. Looking forward to it. Make sure you sign up. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith and Matt Robinson, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will be back with you tomorrow on Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of the Ice Guys.